All right. Well, good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants event. My name is Joe Grabowski, and I'll be your host for today. We are very quickly getting to the end of our live events for 2024. So this morning we had a connection with the Darwin 200 team. They're in Hobart, Tasmania right now. We had people joining us from Australia. I was here in Canada. Our expedition leader, Stuart McPherson, beamed in from the UK. So we really bounced around a lot this morning. After today's event, we really only have one more event before the holidays, and that will be another Darwin 200 event. The ship, the Oosterschelde, will be making its way across the Tasman Sea to Christchurch, New Zealand, and then we will continue our explorations of the planet on the tall ship come 2025. So that should be pretty cool. Before we go, we are pretty lucky to have a special event coming your way today. We always love when we can get out into the field, and today we are heading to that seventh beautiful white snowy continent of Antarctica. And so you may know the Hearts in the Ice team of Sunniva Sorby and Hilde. They have joined us many, many times over, I can't believe it's been probably close to 5 years now. It's pretty wild. You know that our first events with them were from the remote trapper's cabin of Bumsaboo in Svalbard, where they spent a total of 19 months and they became the first women to overwinter solo there, which is pretty amazing. Along the way, they were the ultimate citizen scientists. They were doing a wide array of projects, from looking at clouds to the aurora to sea ice thickness and plankton and on and on and on for organizations like the Scripps Ocean Institute, as well as NASA. And since then, they've been traveling the world together, attending various conferences and workshops, and really sharing that message about climate change, how our amazing polar regions are changing, and how we can all play a role. We all have to play a role to try and slow climate change and mitigate its impacts. So today joining us will be Sunniva. So for decades, she's been exploring the polar regions, and this time she is there in Antarctica aboard Hurtigruten's MS Fridtjof Nansen, which is one of the world's first battery hybrid expedition cruise ships, which is pretty wild. Her and Hilde are godmothers for the ship. And so, Sunniva has a lot of experience in the polar regions. In 1996 was her first visit. She was on a ship. And back then, there was only around 9,000 visitors to Antarctica. And this year, I think it's going to be somewhere around 105,000. So things have really changed. More people are heading to that region. And of course, that brings logistical problems and challenges for delicate ecosystems. So let's get on the ship right now. I have Sunniva hanging out backstage. Let's see how she's doing. Hey, Sunniva, how are you?
Hey, I'm great, Joe. You should see this winter wonderland we have outside, because the snow is just coming down with big flakes, and it's been nonstop for the last few hours. So this is the ultimate Christmas location.
I can give a little taste of that. You sent me a couple pictures via WhatsApp, so we can see a little
did.
thin layer. Yeah.
Yes, and that other photo is Charlotte, who's coming on this call in a couple of minutes, and that's her in one of the Zodiacs. They've been out taking guests on a Zodiac cruise, and as my dad used to say, there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing.
All right. Fair enough. Yeah, well, you are definitely someone who's had a little bit of experience with all kinds of weather conditions in both the Arctic and the Antarctic. So I imagine you're thrilled to be back on the ship that you're a godmother of, which is pretty incredible. And I think it's one of two of those hybrid battery-powered ships in the world. So that's pretty special.
It is special, and it's godmother role is really an honorary role, but it is in the maritime industry a real honor to be invited to be a godmother. And the CEO of the company at the time really wanted sort of modern explorers to be the face of the ship in terms of christening it. So coming on board here, it's just a nice opportunity for me to connect with the crew, who really hold up the entire ship, and the expedition team, who are from around the world, and they're just amazing people. So it's a nice time for me to come here and just press the repeat button on a place that I've been many times, but every time is absolutely different. And the guests make the whole trip.
Yeah, of course. I imagine you're meeting some amazing people from around the world. And they're all there for one
I
reason.
am.
Antarctica. Yeah.
Yep. And, aside from the privilege of coming down here, it's also a huge responsibility. So I feel that very deeply. It's one of the reasons I wanted to have this call with you and everybody that's joining, because this is a place not a lot of people will have an opportunity to visit. But it is, one of our two ice boxes on the planet. And it is just like the Arctic. It's changing rapidly. We've seen a lot of changes in the wildlife, the ice, even places that we can go and can't go. So I am going to hop off the screen right now and turn it over to a most amazing man who is the first officer on board the ship. His name is Sergey. And I would like to introduce everybody to Sergey. And he will share a little bit about some of the challenges and some of the maybe amazing things that you experience when you're down here. So I will hand the seat over to Sergey.
Hello, good afternoon from Antarctica, from Fridtjof Nansen.
Hey, Sergey, it's great to have you with us. Thanks so much for taking some time today.
You're more than welcome. It's always nice to speak about this amazing ship and the amazing destinations that we are going on it.
All right, very cool. Well, I have some questions for you, Sergey. I'd like to get to know a little bit more about you and a little bit more about what it's like, being on the ship. So can you start off, maybe just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you ended up working on ships in the Antarctic?
So I started my maritime career back in 2013, and the first ship I joined was a cruise ship that was going to Antarctic. So basically that was one of my first destinations. And I was so overwhelmingly surprised by what I've seen. And after this, I've also been working on normal cruise ships, let's say, but I always wanted to be back. And 2 years ago, I was privileged to step in as an officer here on Fridtjof Nansen and be back in these amazing places on this amazing ship, which is a state of art.
All right. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about, what the weather's like today, and then how do things like the weather and just the conditions around Antarctica make it difficult to navigate and move around?
Well, both polar regions, north and south, are quite challenging, and the climate change makes it even worse. And I can tell the difference from sailing here back in 2013 and sailing here now. So it's getting more challenging with each year, and you need to deal with more ice. And every year it's just more ice coming, and it's coming earlier in the season. And the conditions are really challenging. And the ice navigation is something completely different from what you can see around the oceans. So of course you need a very nice ship to handle this, and amazing crew, well-trained crew. But the weather today, as Sunniva has said, is amazing Christmas postcard, and it was quite nice ice conditions as well. But I can tell that the most challenging in navigation in the ice on the ship, and knowing that you have so many people on board and you're responsible for them when you're driving. I mean, that is it's a privilege and it's a huge responsibility.
Yeah. And the bow of the ship, is it reinforced? Is it really strong so it can push its way through some ice if it needs to?
Yeah, the Fridtjof Nansen is Polar Class 6, which allows us to operate in the polar regions during the summertime for the summer navigation. She's not an icebreaker, so we cannot ram through the ice, but she can go through the ice of the thickness of 1.2 meters. And
Wow.
the hull is reinforced, but the forward part of the hull is has a thickness of like 30 centimeters still. Then you have the ice belt, which not covering the whole hull area, but just the parts of it that are most likely to be exposed to the ice and icebergs. And of course, you have additional framings there, so she is very safe to sail in the ice during the summer season.
All right. I do want to give a shout out. We have lots of classrooms tuning in via YouTube right now. So if you do have any questions, we're going to be talking to Sergey right now. Other guests are going to join us throughout the call. Don't be shy. You can put the questions into the chat. or if you're a camera classroom, let me know in the private chat if you want to hop in with a question. But while we wait for a few of those questions, I'm wondering, Sergey, so you've obviously been to Antarctica over the years. Can you talked a little bit more about seeing changes in the climate. So can you talk a little bit more about maybe some of the changes that you have seen? Have you seen changes in wildlife, changes in the ice patterns? What are you seeing in Antarctica?
The ship is of course the ice, and what I've told already, that the amount of ice we need to deal with is getting just more and more with each year. So that is the biggest challenge that we have, that you have to deal with plenty of icebergs and way earlier in the season than you should. And this is the most dangerous thing in navigating here, and that getting worse with each year.
And so we're seeing more ice. That's because more ice is melting and breaking off of the shelves, and then it becomes those navigational. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
so we have Mr.
That is.
Yeah, we've got Mr. Bedard's crew hanging out backstage. I'm going to check in with him and see if they have any questions for you, Sergey. Hey, Mr. Bedard, how are you?
Sure.
Hello. Great to see you. Thanks. Can you hear me okay?
We gotcha, nice and clear.
All right. This question is from me and the class. And what advice can you give the students if they want to do what you're doing? Like, how can we help make a difference? How could we explore ourselves? That's the end of that question. Did that come through?
Yeah, there's just a tiny bit of a delay, Mr. Bedard. So, Sergey, if you heard that, Mr. Bedard's crew in Calgary, Alberta, they're curious about, if his students want to a career like yours in exploration, working in Antarctica. Do you have any advice for them? Now, I'm thinking, Mr. Bedard, because we are connecting to the bottom of the planet. So our connection might have just froze on us. So we might have to wait a moment or two and see if Sunniva might have to restart on her end, or it might just come back to us. So we'll give it a second, but Sergey's definitely frozen on us.
No worries.
So we're going to get
this
that
is
question
just this is like not a miracle, but it's almost like a miracle. It's speaking to someone thousands and thousands of kilometers away on the Antarctic ice. And
yeah, technology is pretty amazing, but there's still some parts of the planet, especially the far north and the far south, where it's still a little bit complicated. There we go. I think we've got them back.
Not a problem. This is great.
Sergey, Sunniva, you can hear me now?
Yes, we are back, and we can hear you.
Perfect. So Sergey, Mr. Bedard's question was about his students and how they could, any advice you might have if they want to do kind of what you're doing, working somewhere like Antarctica, exploring, that kind of thing. Do you have any advice for students?
Working on Antarctica and exploring, being the officer of the ship, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
If they wanted to pursue a career.
Yeah, then it's just a normal maritime academy. You have plenty of them back in Canada, and I spent some of my seat.
That's a good answer. That's a cool answer. Hey.
All right. So I see the spinning wheel again. So I'm thinking that our connectivity might not be cooperating too much with us. If you are tuning in via YouTube, send some questions to us via the chat, and we will cross our fingers that this connection is going to resolve. I've been on with Sunniva for about 15 minutes before the call, and the connection was pretty good. But she did mention that it's snowing pretty heavily. Sometimes a lot of snow, thick clouds or snow on the satellite equipment, that can have an impact on the connection. So, they've disappeared again, which means they're trying to come back in. I've got one more question for Sergey, and then I think we're going to meet someone from the science team. And then I think we've got some special kind of unexpected guests who are going to pop in if everything goes kind of smoothly. But yeah, it's Antarctica. It's the bottom of the planet. On a good day, connectivity can be kind of tricky. So we'll see how things go once I get Sunniva back into the call. What else can I say about our event today? So I think it's probably the conditions. If I had to guess, that it's quite snowy, and that's having an impact on the satellite's connectivity. The only other thing it could be is if there's a ton of people using the connectivity right now on the ship, but it looks like a lot of people are out on Zodiac rides and stuff. So I don't think that's our problem today. If we don't have Sunniva come back and join us shortly, because we do have time together today, I can share a little adventure with you. I was just in Australia for 2 weeks with our Darwin 200. So the Oosterschelde, the tall ship that we're following around the world. I've got some crazy pictures and videos from my time around Australia and Tasmania. So as an absolute worst case scenario, if we don't see Sunniva back in a couple minutes, then I will switch to that plan for the rest of our time together. But it would be really nice to connect back with Antarctica and continue with Sergey and meet a couple more people before we have to sign off. In fact, that reminds me, I've got Sunniva here on WhatsApp, and WhatsApp sometimes works a little, oh, maybe they're back. Maybe they're back. Let's check. Hey, Sunniva.
Yay!
I was just telling the students that in some parts of the world, even though we have amazing connectivity, it's still hard, especially in the polar regions.
I had a supposed call earlier, and the people in the chat, because I could read the chat, they said, we're going to report this to Elon Musk, Ray.
Fair enough.
Anyhow,
fair enough.
Sergey wanted to mention that for any of the students that were interested in having a role on board a ship in any capacity, you look up the maritime academies that are around. There are many of them in Canada as well. He actually attended some training in Canada, and pursue the requirements there, and then slowly they build up their credentials and could actually become a first officer or eventually a captain. That's available for both boys and girls. Yeah.
All right. Well, it looks like maybe Sergey had to get back on the bridge. I'm sure there's lots of things that they're paying attention to. So next time you see him, please pass on our thanks. It was great to have him with us for a little bit.
I will. And he was sorry he couldn't finish it up, but we weren't sure if we we're going to log back on. Yeah. But I'd like to introduce you to one of the most special expedition team members on board. Her name is Charlotte, and she is the assistant for the Citizen Science and Education program here on the Fridtjof Nansen. And that's just a lot right there, but she's also a Zodiac driver and does a whole lot of other things. So I'm going to remove myself from this chair and have her come in so everybody can meet Charlotte.
Great.
Hello, good to see you.
Hi, Charlotte. How are you?
I'm doing really good. I just came off the boat about 10 minutes ago, just running up to get the call with you guys.
Yeah, we saw a picture of you out there in the snow. I hope you're warming up a bit.
Absolutely. We are wearing tri-suit when we're out in the Zodiac, so at least we don't get wet. But today is a very special day. The weather has been quite impressive. We had to use a GPS to get back to the ship because we couldn't see it anymore.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's amazing. Well, Charlotte, so Sunniva mentioned that you are right in there with the citizen science action. I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit about how you get the passengers involved in science down there in Antarctica.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am one of our science and education coordinators that we have on the fleet. There's always one on board, and we are responsible of creating the best possible onboard experience for the guests. That is the most educational, but then also organizing all the outings and data collection for science projects such as the Globe Observer or Fjord 5, which is one of the main projects. And it's actually the project that we have just been contributing to right now. So our job is to organize all the lecturers in the expedition team to provide the best possible content, the most relevant one, so that our guests that come to Antarctica to learn about this fantastic environment and not just to visit it, can become what we call ambassadors for the area that we visit.
All right. And so you mentioned 2 citizen science projects there. The first one being the GLOBE project, looking at clouds. Why are we that interested? Why are we looking at the clouds? What can they tell us?
We're interested in clouds on board the ship specifically because of 2 reasons. First of all, when we're looking in all of our climate models, clouds are actually one of the main biases that we still encounter. So actually ground truthing satellite data, so the satellite flying overhead at any given point, taking observations, and then giving us an idea about a cloud cover, are great in generating a lot of data, but they're not great when it comes to distinguishing ice and snow compared to clouds. And so when we are on the ground, we're able to ground truth with every satellite overpass what this satellite might be seeing at the time.
Okay. And then you mentioned phytoplankton. Why is phytoplankton so important to the Arctic ecosystem? Or sorry, the Antarctic ecosystem?
It's actually important to every ocean ecosystem. Phytoplankton is the base of the food web in the ocean, so everything relies on it. They are the little organisms that take up the sunlight, do photosynthesis, and actually out of hot air produce food, right? So they're essential when we're looking at not only all the wildlife that we can find in Antarctica or anywhere else in the world, but also looking further, they're actually climate heroes. So they're able to fix about half of the carbon dioxide that we have worldwide by doing photosynthesis, and then by, well, taking a big part of it actually when they die to the deep ocean as well.
All right. Very cool. So you're involved in science, you're driving Zodiacs. My question for you as a Canadian who loves diving, even in the winter, do you or anybody on your team ever get to go diving up there?
That's a great question. So we have a lot of scuba divers, and I think there would be a lot of us interested in doing so, but the water is pretty cold. So today I think it was -1 in parts. We actually had this probe with us, which is a CTD, to measure besides conductivity and the depth, also the temperature of the water. So no, we don't go scuba diving here, but something else with us, which is a ROV, so a remote operated vehicle, an underwater drone, which we take with us and on the boats, then launch it and can go diving with it. And the nice thing about it is, as a scuba diver, your limit would be about 40 meters depth, maybe. This underwater drone can go up to 150, even 300 meters for some of the models. So that's pretty special. And I was able to do that with a guest scientist who had been using the underwater drones last season down to 110 meters, I believe.
Oh, wow. That sounds amazing. And I bet, I've seen some video clips that maybe students might not expect it, but there's a pretty biodiverse ecosystem under the ice, isn't there?
Yeah, not only under the ice itself, but then also the bottom fauna, so the benthos, we call it. There is a lot of beautiful color where you wouldn't expect it. And I had a comment just a month ago of a guest joining us on a drone boat saying he finally understands where all the color in Antarctica is. It's underwater.
Very cool. Let me check in quickly. Mr. Bedard's crew from Calgary are an online group hanging out with us. I'll check in and see if they have a question about the science action, what it's like kind of going out on those little trips with the groups out on the Zodiac boat. So let's bring in Mr. Bedard here just to check in.
All right. Hello again. I have some questions kind of from the students here. what's the coldest it's been, and what have you seen, and how do you deal with the cold while working? Not just staying warm, but how do you, and what have you seen? How cold is it? How do you deal with the cold?
That's a super good question. What have we seen underwater, or just in general, or maybe today?
Both. Yeah, both. Just in your research, what have you seen? Even in all of your, maybe the most exciting thing you've seen, right?
Absolutely. So for today, the most exciting thing was we have some guest researchers on board right now from California Ocean Alliance, and they're actually taking biopsy samples of whales. So we've seen some humpback whales today, and they were able to take some samples from these humpback whales. In general, the coolest thing I've seen in Antarctica must have been underwater fauna, because sometimes you get to see these videos of deep sea ROVs, and for the first time last year I was able to ROV myself, and we saw much of the same kind of organisms, things you wouldn't expect. So huge sea stars, for example, or crinoids, or what we call feather stars, really odd looking sea creatures that are related once again to our sea stars.
Thank you so much. What an honor to talk to you.
The second part of his question, Charlotte, was about how do you deal with the cold while you're trying to work?
Okay, so I'm a person that freezes really, really fast, and I had a particularly bad time in this earlier in January, where I was very cold. I have since started layering up like crazy. There were days where I wore 4 or 5 pairs of socks. Wool is great. It's a natural fiber, but also it still keeps you warm when it's wet. So that is what we want. And this season, first time with me are electric insoles and electric hand warmers, which are lifesavers down here.
Cool.
All right. Well prepared for that cold. Very cool. And thanks to Mr. Bedard's crew for those great questions.
I love them. Thank you. Right on.
All right. One more question for you, Charlotte, which is, this one's from me. I've never been to Antarctica and I really want to visit. And the number one thing I want to see is a leopard seal. I think they are just such amazing looking predators. Have you, on this trip or others, interacted with a leopard seal?
I have only seen one so far, and this was and I found them to be some of the most fascinating creatures I've seen in Antarctica. So we were close to a glacier edge, and the leopard seal was actually spy hopping on some of the ice floes that we saw, because it was hunting, so it was looking for prey. And it kept doing that for a good half hour before approaching our landing site, where there was things out of the water, right? Humans, that is. And it actually, about 15 meters from me, came out of the water and spent a good time relatively close. I was, I have to say, thinking about evacuating my post in that moment.
All right. So cool. Well, Charlotte, thank you so much for spending a little time with us. Keep warm out there. It sounds like you're doing some great work getting the passengers involved in some cool projects out there.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. Have a lovely day.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow.
Joe, leopard seals, I have to tell you, some years ago I saw, and this is not something that is pleasant to watch, but it's part of the evolution of life here. And I did see a leopard seal catch a penguin, and that violent shake that they have when they capture their prey is really something. So why don't you come down and join us on the Nansen next year?
Oh, in a heartbeat. I've been to 6 continents.
Right.
Antarctica is the last one, and it looks like just a place like no other. It looks amazing.
Yes, and speaking of continents, I I really wanted everybody to be introduced to the next two guests that are sitting behind me here, because I was on a landing, was just yesterday, and this amazing woman was step by step making her way to the top of the hill where there was a Gentoo penguin colony. And I told her, just in my own words, that I think she climbed her own Mount Everest. And I come to find out her story. And it's really worth sharing, because, you know, we're living in a time, I don't know about you, but a lot of my friends are sort of in that baby boomer population. We're all losing our parents, and the connections that we have to our parents and our grandparents is so important. And we forget that how much it matters to really spend time with people we care about and take them to places we care about. So I'm going to vacate this chair here and introduce you to Grandma Joy and to her grandson, Brad, who will tell you a little bit about a very historical thing that they have done in the last couple of years. And this woman, you're amazing. She just got her passport at the age of 91. She's 94
Wow.
years old. Everybody, Grandma Joy.
All right.
Hello.
There we go.
Hi there.
Hey, Grandma Joy. Hey, Brad. How are you?
We're in Antarctica. We're having a great time.
Yeah, I can imagine. I was just reading a little bit about your adventure so far. If you want to take a minute, introduce yourselves and tell the students what you've been up to.
Great. Well, we're both from Ohio in the United States. When I was a little boy, we didn't really have much in terms of outdoor recreation and a glacier flattened state like Ohio, not a lot of mountains to climb. But what we did have were some streams in our local state park, and she would take me there when I was about 4 or 5 years old. And she was my mom didn't want to get in the stream to catch crayfish and frogs, but Grandma Joy did. And so that planted a seed in my brain to really fall in love with nature and wildlife. And I grew up to be a wildlife veterinarian. And during my 4th year of vet school, I remembered a conversation I had with her when she was about 80 years old. And she told me very matter-of-factly that she regretted that she never got to see a mountain in her lifetime. And so we took off on a road trip when she was 85, and she went camping for the first time in Great Smoky Mountains National Park and climbed a mountain. Not only saw a mountain, but climbed a mountain.
Wow.
And so seeing that potential in her fueled me to look beyond my academic and professional ambitions. And I really found in life the most important mission was to make sure that she got to see as much of the world as I possibly could show her. And so we kept driving. And at age 93, she became the oldest person in the world to all 63 U.S. national parks. And along the way, she accumulated a pretty large Instagram following, and all of her fans put some pressure on me to keep and so now we're on a mission to take Grandma Joy around the world. And so we've gone to, we visited Canada because we didn't want to feel like cheaters and just say that we've been to North America because we're from there. And we've been to South America, and we've been to Africa. And right now we're in, I think, the most beautiful place we've ever been, and that's Antarctica.
Yeah, that sounds absolutely amazing. Grandma Joy, I wonder, you've been to some pretty amazing places. I wonder if there's a place that stands out to you that you visited that really sticks with you, that, a really big memory maybe.
Some of your favorite places that you've been. You've got a lot of them, don't you?
Well, this is the most amazing place I've ever been, and on an amazing ship. I've never been on a ship like this, so this is really great. Because of our little dinky town, you just sit on the front porch and crochet. You don't go anywhere. But it was enjoyable at Africa. We saw all the most amazing animals, and we got to see the bears capture the fish as they jumped up the waterway, and that was something that I'd always want to see, was that, and so it kind of made my day.
Oh,
So,
amazing.
But can't beat Hawaii, that's for sure. Everybody likes that.
Sure.
And all the national parks have something unusual about every park. You think I like this one best, and then you go to another one. Oh, I like this. So you just need to open up your eyes and go out and enjoy the world.
Very cool. Brad, you mentioned at the beginning that, you know, your grandma was taking you out exploring and catching frogs. Are you guys still catching frogs out there in different places?
You know, these days we just stick to the car, but you know, I mean, but I mean, the reality is that that was the only thing that she really knew, was the wildlife that lived in Ohio. And of course, she was experiencing the world through the television, but you have a very different connection to the natural world when you're driving through it, or when you're on a huge ship like this. And I think that would be my message to all the folks that are listening right now, is that the greatest classroom in the world are the national parks and the natural places in our world, because when you see them for yourselves and you see what's at stake, that's what makes you not only educated about what's going on in the world, but it makes you invested in protecting it for the long term. And you know, we've talked about climate change some today, and we've seen evidence of that in a very short period of time. We were in California just about 7 years ago, and since then we've lost 25% of our redwood trees to wildfires as a result of climate change. And that's just tip of the iceberg in terms of what's at stake and what we've experienced on our road trip.
Yeah. I've got a third grade classroom that just sent in a question in the chat, and they would like to know if you've met a lot of interesting people, if you've made new friends along the way.
Yeah, and you know, the national parks are not only a gateway to meet people from your own country, but people from around the world. Because we have so many visitors from around the world that love to come to Yellowstone and Yosemite, Joshua Tree, and the great iconic parks of the United States. But of course, now we're going out into the world. And so now we have friends from Africa and South America. And I think that's so important too. It's not only an education and what's happening in the natural world, but it's an education and how there's so much good in people from around the world. And we have so much in common.
Yeah, definitely. I've got a question from a 6th grade class. Grandma Joy, they're wondering, what's the most important thing you bring with you when you travel?
Oh boy. What's the most important thing you put in your suitcase when you take off?
I don't know. I think
probably your shower cap.
Yeah.
Got to protect those curls.
Yeah, I look so sweet right now. I don't know. I guess, you know, if you're old like me, you better put your medicine in there. So, but
your cane.
And yeah, and my cane.
And hiking poles.
So then Brad brought me some hiking poles. So I use those too. So if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't get to travel.
Yeah.
He's the most important thing to me.
Absolutely.
If it wasn't for him, I'd still be sitting on the front porch.
I can see that you guys have a very strong relationship. I can only imagine with each trip, it grows more and more. And that leads us to another question. This is from a 4th grade class. They're wondering, it doesn't look like you're slowing down. So what's next? Do you have the next adventure planned yet?
Yeah, in fact, it's only a month away. So we're heading to Iceland to see the Northern Lights in just a few weeks. And we're going to be leading an expedition in Borneo in September to see the orangutans and the pygmy elephants.
Wow.
And that's a trip that people can sign up for if they want to come along. So, you know what to ask your parents for when you get home.
Exactly. Christmas is coming up. Okay.
Exactly.
Where can students follow along? Because we want to follow along on these next adventures. So where's the best place to keep track? Where can we follow?
Okay. The best place is just to find us on Instagram. So if you type in Grandma Joy, you will find it. But the handle is at Grandma Joy's Road Trip.
At Grandma Joy's Road Trip. Very, very cool.
Yeah.
I have a feeling you're going to have some more students following along. Iceland, Borneo.
So.
Wow. You've got a lot to look forward to. Pretty amazing.
Yeah. we're excited. But right now we're just going to be grateful for everything that we're experiencing right here in Antarctica. We've been up close and personal with some humpback whales and penguins over the last few days, and we're just getting warmed up, which is hard to do here.
Yeah, very cool.
That was a
Well,
bad
Brad, Grandma Joy, thank you so much for taking some time from your epic trip to Antarctica and spending some time with us today here.
It was a pleasure.
Oh, yes. It's a wonderful trip. It really is. You just see so many amazing things. And I really appreciate getting to come. I really do. I really enjoy everything. You get
All right.
At my age, you better enjoy it while you can, because you don't know when the end's coming.
Fair enough. Well, enjoy the rest of your time in Antarctica and keep Sunniva out of trouble there as well.
All right. She's here.
There she is.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your time.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Wow. Yeah, Sunniva, you're making some pretty cool friends there on the ship.
Well, it's just, I think that is one of the gifts of traveling, as they mentioned, but also that I've experienced, is the people you meet along the way that give you a new perspective on everything, right? So I'm glad that they are here, and I can't believe they have those trips coming up. Oh my gosh. I don't have a lot on my schedule. I have to get on it.
Yeah. Well, what I think is really cool. I was just in Tasmania, and I was out on a little Zodiac, and we were with a big group of humpback whales. It was their last stop before Antarctica. So I think it's really cool that, I was just in a spot where the whales left to head across the Southern Ocean, and they're heading your way down to those rich, nutrient-rich waters. So it's pretty cool that you're getting to see the humpback whales out there too.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And this morning I opened up the door from my cabin, and there was a sleeping whale right there. And I just, I saw it, but I didn't see very much of its, the backside of it, but all I could hear was the breathing. And I have to tell you, what a gift to hear stuff like that here,
Amazing.
Curiosity and courage. That's what we all need to pack when we travel somewhere.
So I'm curious, over your shoulder, is that map accurate to where you are right now?
It's not, it is actually. Wasn't sure if you could see that right off of Nansen Island.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
It just changed.
Can I take you outside for just it just changed. Can I take you outside for a quick second?
Yeah, let's try. Let's see if the connectivity will work. Let's go for it.
Let's go for it. Let's just. So we're on deck 6 right now, which is where the science center is, and well, we can't see much. It's pretty much, but look at this pancaked. Look at this.
Oh yeah, you've got pancake ice all around the ship.
Yeah, and that's just all from the snow this morning and the changing temperatures. It's getting a lot colder as we're traveling.
Yeah.
But
you
here
can see a couple bigger pieces of ice there as well. Maybe icebergs, little ones. Yeah.
Yep, 2 little icebergs, a couple of bergy bits.
Yeah.
Yeah, there have been a lot of changes here with the wildlife, and that's part of what the citizen science is doing with the guests, is really, if you're not measuring something, it doesn't count. And they're really trying to interpret, as we were doing up at Bumsaboo for 19 months, interpret what the science is telling us so that people get curious about what's happening down here, and not just having a trip, because guests are not coming on board just to have a trip to Antarctica. They really care deeply. And I find that to be a big shift from when I first came down here in 1996, where we never talked about climate change.
Yeah. Wow. Well, Sunniva, it always amazes me where we connect from next. You and Hilde both have been doing such an amazing job as ambassadors for our polar regions, and you've documented what's happening. You've taken part in citizen projects, science projects to, really grab the data in real time, what's happening. And then most importantly, you've been sharing it. And I think that's so important that information is shared, those details are shared. And you're constantly reminding us that we can all do something. And I think that's a really important message. Is it's tough. It can make you upset and feel like a huge burden, but you've connected with this global community of so many people who are doing something about it and not just, watching it happen.
I know. And Hilde was supposed to be down on this ship as well, but some things in her family made it such that it wasn't a good time for her to come. But between the two, and it's not always sustainable for us to travel together. So we divide and conquer. But I don't think you can have two more people on the planet that are as deeply connected, both from an experience perspective and our passion to the polar regions. It was really a pretty amazing thing to just be down here and share this place again with you. Without you, we wouldn't have these platforms. So thank you for what you're doing.
Of course. Well, Sunniva, it's about that time where we should let you get back to your adventure. I know you still have several days of exploration ahead of you, and we can't wait to reconnect in the new year and see what's happening. Oh, there's Grandma Joy.
Absolutely.
There's Brad. Very cool.
Yeah. Wave.
Thanks, team. There they are.
Joe,
cool.
Thank you so much. Okay. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yeah, happy holidays. Thanks so much for being with us. Enjoy your time.
You too, Joe. Take care and say hi to the family.
Will do. See you soon.